Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. And I rise today in the name of government of the people, by the people, for the people. I rise today because our country is nearing a moment of decision. I rise because we are at the intersection of democracy and autocracy. I rise to announce that at this moment in time, I have filed H-Res 537. H-Res 537 is a privileged resolution. H-Res 537 has been filed because I believe that the President of the United States has committed an impeachable act.
Hi everyone, Adam is here. So what just happened? 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, March 19th, the gavel fell. In that single sound echoing through the House chamber, the United States did something it has only done twice before in its entire history. The House voted to impeach a sitting president on charges of high crimes, 227 to 208. 12 Republicans crossed the aisle to make it happen.
Yesterday, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie tweeted, "Bombing a country on the other side of the globe won't make the Epstein files go away any more than the Dow going above 50,000 will." Today, the House Oversight Committee released video of the depositions of President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who had a suggestion for the committee about Donald Trump.
I think that it would be in keeping with the scope of the investigation of this committee to set up a deposition with President Trump. I know he's been deposed many, many, many times. He's taken the Fifth Amendment many, many hundreds of times. So I'm not saying you're going to get a lot of information. But given what's in the files and given past and prior conduct, he would be on my witness list.
Iran war perjury, Epstein obstruction, $12.3 billion in unauthorized military strikes. Donald Trump became the third impeached president in American history. And the moment that gavel came down, everything else followed in a cascade that has no precedent.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
To address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and still I rise. And I rise today because I believe my country to be at the crossroads of democracy and autocracy. The moment of decision is near. We will have to decide whether we will have a country that abides by a constitution that is meaningful or ignores the Constitution such that it becomes meaningless. I choose to stand on the grounds laid by the founders and framers of the Constitution.
Think about what was happening simultaneously the night that vote was cast. The lawyers had already fled. The federal marshals were already staged outside the White House. 75,000 people flooded the streets of Washington, D.C. while the National Guard battled crowds. 14 cabinet secretaries invoked the 25th Amendment. The Senate trial was set for days away. Federal prison odds hit 94%, and the arrest protocol was activated by the federal prosecutor himself. All of it in one night, all of it converging on the same moment. And moments after the gavel fell, moments after 227 votes locked in the most consequential legislative action of this generation, the president erupted on a scrambled hotline. The audio leaked within minutes, and what it captured, what millions of people heard in the first hour alone, was a president completely unraveling. Rogue traitors sold America to traitors. Jail them all. That was the response. That was what came out of the man at the center of it all the moment the vote became real. And then, in direct violation of a federal gag order already in his case file, he posted a barrage on social media, attacking prosecutors, attacking members, attacking judges, on the record, with the gag order in effect. And the federal judge issued an immediate contempt warrant within hours of the posts going up because that is what the order said would happen. Because the judge meant it when he said continued defiance equals contempt and detention. And he tested it, and he found out, on the night of his impeachment, with marshals converging on the White House, with 14 cabinet secretaries invoking the 25th Amendment, with the Senate trial set for days away. The response was to violate a federal gag order on social media. That is the moment. That is the specific decision made in the hours after the gavel fell, and it resulted in a contempt warrant being issued before the night was over. The 25th Amendment invocation by 14 cabinet secretaries is the development that changes the immediate operational picture in the most profound way. 14 is not close to the threshold. 14 is well past the threshold. Section 4 requires the vice president and a majority of cabinet officers. 14 secretaries is a clear and unambiguous majority. The declaration has been transmitted. The president is suspended from exercising the powers of the office pending congressional review. The 25th Amendment, which started this week as a fringe conversation polling at single-digit odds, has been invoked on the same night as the impeachment vote, on the same night as the contempt warrant, on the same night as the arrest protocol activation. This is not a crisis anymore. This is a conclusion, and it is happening right now. Let me break down what happened tonight in sequence because the sequence matters and the details of each development tell you something specific about where this ends and how fast it gets there. Start with the vote itself, 227 to 208. That is the final tally, and the 12 Republican defectors are the members who made that number possible. These are not moderate Republicans from swing districts who were always going to be persuadable on impeachment. These are the members who have defined the right flank of the House Republican Conference for years. When those members vote for impeachment, they are not making a calculation about political survival in a purple district. They are making a judgment call about the conduct they witnessed, about the resignation letter from the Pentagon official, about the war powers violation, about the cost, about the lawyer admissions, about the federal judge's ruling, about all of it. And their judgment recorded in the permanent congressional record was that the conduct described in the impeachment articles met the constitutional standard for high crimes. The Republican defectors connected to the bipartisan action against the Attorney General were the votes moved by the combination of the Epstein file exposure and the Justice Department obstruction conduct. Those members looked at the situation, the bipartisan perjury accusations, the subpoena defiance, the obstruction theater characterization, and made the same calculation. Defending this at this point is more dangerous than breaking with it, and a dozen of them broke together on the record. Now, let me talk about the leaked hotline audio. The specific content of what was said and the fact that it leaked within minutes are both significant in ways that go beyond the drama of the moment. Rogue traitors sold America to traitors. Jail them all. That is what was captured in audio from a scrambled hotline that somebody on the inside decided to leak minutes after the vote. Think about what that leak tells you. Somebody in the inner circle on that hotline call recorded that audio and got it out within minutes of the vote. That is not an accidental disclosure. That is a deliberate decision by someone in close proximity to put his exact words into the public record at the most consequential moment of his presidency. That person made a choice, and the choice was to leak rather than protect, which tells you something about the state of loyalty in whatever remains of the operation tonight. And then the social media barrage in direct violation of the federal gag order. This is the decision that accelerated the contempt warrant. Understanding why that decision was made after being warned explicitly, after deleting posts earlier when the warning was first issued, after his own lawyers had already cited the gag order as a factor in their withdrawal, is important because it was not accidental. It was not a miscalculation about what the order covered. It was a deliberate choice made in the hours after the impeachment vote to respond publicly in exactly the way the federal judge had explicitly prohibited, and the result, an immediate contempt warrant, was exactly what the judge said would happen, and it happened. The contempt warrant changes the custody picture in a specific operational way because it means the marshals who were already staged outside the White House already coordinated on the arrest protocol that the federal prosecutor activated, now have two separate legal instruments supporting custody. The authorized post-conviction custody request from the judge's ruling earlier and the contempt warrant issued in response to the gag order violation. Two independent legal bases for custody, both issued by the same federal judge, both now in the file, both operative tonight. Now, let me talk about the 25th Amendment invocation because this is the development with the most immediate operational consequences, and it is being underreported relative to its significance. 14 cabinet secretaries. The declaration has been transmitted to Congress under Section 4. The Vice President signed it. 14 cabinet secretaries signed it. The transmission is complete. And under the constitutional mechanism, the President is immediately suspended from exercising the powers of the office upon transmission of the declaration, not upon congressional review, not upon a Senate vote confirming the invocation, upon transmission, which means as of tonight, the operational powers of the presidency have been suspended. The 25th Amendment has been invoked, and the person it was invoked against is simultaneously facing a contempt warrant and an activated arrest protocol. Staged marshals, a Senate trial days away, and 94% federal prison odds in the markets. The specific number 14 is significant beyond just meeting the threshold. 14 is not a bare majority squeaking past the constitutional minimum. 14 is a decisive supermajority of the cabinet. It means the invocation was not the product of one or two persuadable members crossing over reluctantly at the last minute. It means a large and decisive majority of the cabinet made the same assessment independently and reached the same conclusion, that the situation met the constitutional standard for Section 4 invocation. When 14 cabinet secretaries reach the same conclusion simultaneously, that is not a close call. That is a clear judgment, and it is now in the constitutional record. The Senate trial set for days from now is the next institutional step. But in the context of everything that has happened tonight, the 25th Amendment invocation, the contempt warrant, the activated arrest protocol, the trial is not the most urgent timeline. The most urgent timeline is tonight. The marshals are converging. The arrest protocol is activated. The contempt warrant is issued. The 25th Amendment has been invoked. The legal and constitutional machinery is all moving simultaneously toward the same destination. The 75,000 protesters and the National Guard battles in the streets are the public dimension of what is happening inside the institutions simultaneously. The streets where people gathered when the papers dropped now have 50% more people responding to the actual vote passage. The National Guard deployed earlier is now in active engagement with crowds that grew when the gavel fell and the hotline audio leaked and the social media barrage hit and the contempt warrant was issued. All of those developments, each one adding to the street-level energy, happened within hours of each other, and the streets reflect the totality of all of it simultaneously. The 94% federal prison odds are the market's comprehensive response to everything that has happened tonight. The vote, the contempt warrant, the 25th Amendment invocation, the arrest protocol activation, the staged marshals, all of it priced into a single number, 94%. That represents the most confident collective legal and political assessment of any outcome this market has produced at any point this entire week. 94% is not uncertainty. 94% is the market saying this outcome has been established. The remaining 6% is the probability assigned to scenarios that at this point require either a successful emergency appeal before the marshals execute the arrest, or a last-minute political intervention that has no visible pathway given the 25th Amendment invocation, the contempt warrant, and the cabinet declaration already transmitted. 227 to 208 with 12 Republican defectors is a verdict, not a political outcome. The difference between a political outcome and a verdict is simple. Political outcomes can be contested, relitigated, reversed by the next election, reframed by a new narrative. Verdicts cannot. A verdict is a formal institutional judgment recorded in the permanent record, attached to specific charges, supported by specific evidence, rendered by a body with the constitutional authority to render it. That vote is a verdict. It is in the permanent congressional record. It carries 3 specific charges. It is supported by declassified memos, Epstein file mentions, a sworn lawyer concession, a federal judge's ruling, a federal prosecutor's criminal referral, and a bipartisan war powers letter. All of that evidence is attached to the verdict in the permanent record. It cannot be reframed. It cannot be relitigated. It has been rendered. And the 12 Republican defectors are the members who made it bipartisan, who made it impossible to characterize as purely partisan, who made it a judgment shared across both parties about the specific conduct described in the articles. When those members vote for impeachment, the argument that this is a partisan witch hunt is gone. The argument requires a partisan divide that does not exist in the voting record, and without that argument, the narrative protection that has deflected every previous crisis has no foundation left to stand on. A contempt warrant on the night of impeachment combined with an activated arrest protocol and a 14th Secretary 25th Amendment invocation means 3 separate removal mechanisms are operating simultaneously. 3 separate constitutional and legal mechanisms are all moving toward the same destination at the same time tonight. The impeachment conviction with the Senate trial is the legislative removal track, 92% conviction odds, bipartisan support already signaled, 3 counts corroborated by sworn admissions. That track is moving on a timeline of days. The 25th Amendment invocation, 14 cabinet secretaries, declaration transmitted, presidential power suspended. That is the executive removal track. That track activated tonight. The suspension is already in effect, constitutionally pending congressional review. And the contempt warrant combined with the activated arrest protocol and the staged marshals is the federal criminal custody track. That track is operational tonight, not in days. Tonight, 3 tracks, all operational, all moving, all heading to the same place. And the person at the center of all 3 just violated a federal gag order hours after the impeachment vote. The decision to post knowing the gag order was in effect, knowing the marshals were staged, knowing the contempt warrant would follow, is the final behavioral confirmation that the operation has completely lost its ability to function with any strategic coherence. 3 removal mechanisms running simultaneously, and the response is a social media post. 94% federal prison odds with marshals converging means tonight is not the beginning of the next chapter. It is the end of this one. All week we have been covering a crisis that was building, escalating, adding layers, compounding developments. Each day brought new legal filings, new political defections, new probability numbers moving in the same direction. And every update was framed as building, as things moving toward a resolution that was coming but had not arrived. It has arrived tonight, with a gavel, with a social media post and a contempt warrant moments later, with 14 cabinet secretaries transmitting a 25th Amendment declaration, and right now with marshals converging and an arrest protocol activated and a 94% probability market that has priced the conclusion of this story. The Senate trial is the final institutional step in the legislative track, but the presidency operationally has already ended. The 25th Amendment suspension is in effect, the contempt warrant is issued, the arrest protocol is activated, the marshals are moving, the lawyers are gone, the war room is empty, the hotline feed was cut mid-rant, and 14 cabinet secretaries signed a declaration that is now in the constitutional record. Here is the complete picture: House impeachment passage, 12 Republican defectors, 3 counts, permanent congressional record, leaked hotline audio, social media barrage violating the federal gag order, immediate contempt warrant issued, federal prosecutor activates arrest protocol, marshals converging, 14 cabinet secretaries invoke the 25th Amendment, declaration transmitted, presidential powers suspended, Senate trial set, 75,000 protesters in the streets, National Guard in active engagement, 94% federal prison odds, 92% Senate conviction projection, 3 coordinated federal legal authorities all operational simultaneously, Epstein files with thousands of mentions in the permanent court record, sworn lawyer admissions confirming fabrications and congressional bypass, all of it on one night. The gavel fell. The contempt warrant followed. The 25th Amendment was invoked. The marshals are moving. And 94% of the people who put their money on outcomes have decided they know how this ends. The presidency, as of tonight, is over in every operational and constitutional sense. What remains is the formal conclusion of 3 separate tracks: legislative, executive, judicial, all moving toward the same destination on overlapping timelines. The gavel fell. The marshals are moving. The declaration is transmitted. The warrant is issued. History does not wait for the morning. Sometimes it happens on a Wednesday night. And this was that night.